for the Giants. On that drop of 5, see us connecting all the dots, weaving through the lines. Dog, don't you see the signs? You can't mix zebra with the lines. Bro, I was working kinda hard before I seen a dime. Now it's all about them big plays and conversation with tirades. Don't y'all motherfuckers know? It's the Shakedown Show. The Shakedown Show. Shakedown Show. It's the Shakedown Show. Ooh, yeah. It's the Shakedown Show.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Shakedown Show special interview with Lockdown Vikings. Luke Braun, take it away, my man Shakes.
Alright, what's going on? Usually I say Big Blue Nation, but I'm gonna say Purple Gang, right? What do y'all call
That's
each
the old
other?
name.
Y'all call the purple people eaters? What do y'all call yourselves
Yeah,
now?
that's what they were back in the 70s. The old
Right.
Purple Gang is what they call them on the radio. I would say,
Yeah, I
don't
went
know,
two
Skol
old school
Nation is
names.
maybe. It's
Still Nation?
Vikings fans. Yeah, Skol Nation,
Okay.
something like that, I guess.
Okay, Skol Nation. Okay, I got you. I do say that. I see that in the hashtag Skol Nation. I do see that a lot. So I see y'all. Y'all got a little movement going.
Yeah, they have a large Scandinavian population in Minnesota, so they all represent that Vikings Raiders thing, thus the Skol.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. A little history lesson from Beard. All right. Real quick. This is the part where I let you tell the people what you do, where they can find you, and who you are.
Yeah, so my name is Luke Braun. I cover the Minnesota Vikings on the Locked On Vikings podcast that is free and available wherever you find podcasts, including YouTube. I also have a Patreon where I am releasing a documentary on the entire history of the Minnesota Vikings, going all the way back to when they were the Purple Gang. 2 parts, 2 of 7 episodes are released now, and going to release one every Saturday here up until the start of the season. So you can find that at patreon.com/LukeBraunNFL. My Twitter is at Locked On Vikings, or you can also find my personal one at Luke Braun NFL. And I also am co-posting the documentary at zonecoverage.com, where you can find all that stuff. But I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff with the Locked On Network, including Locked On NFL and an ensemble show called the Minnesota Football Party. And you can probably find me on the radio a whole bunch of places this week too.
Nice.
Awesome.
Doing
Thank you
a
for
lot of
taking
work
the time,
there, bro. That's right. Yes. I'm happy
grinding.
that you took the time to come join us. Trying to get my lighting together. But so listen, I'm gonna get right to it. I'm pretty sure the Viking fans want to hear everything that you got to say. So I got some questions, and I just go ahead and shoot for it, right?
Yeah, hit me.
All right. So my first question: what's your favorite draft pick from this year's draft for the Minnesota?
So the guy I'm most endeared to is Andrew Booth out of Clemson, because he is the fightiest fighter I've ever seen. Like, both in the figurative, he's got a lot of heart, and in like literally, he's always trying to start a fight, and I love that about him. It's such great cornerback mentality. It's what you want in a cornerback, is a guy that's just exactly that detached from reality. That, because I mean, cornerback is a position that requires you, if you get burned 3 times in a row, you have to play snap 4 exactly as aggressively as you did before. And the second you start hesitating and second guessing yourself, you'll be the worst corner on the planet. So you need to kind of be able to like totally abandon reality and be like, yeah, I should actually be more careful, but I'm not going to, because I'm king. That's the mentality you have to have, and I love it. He's had some ups and downs. He's been getting flagged a lot in practice, so I don't think he's going to like come in and be a superstar right away. He's got a lot to learn yet, but I love the future for him. I think the guy that figures to have the most impact right off the bat would be, for me, the first rounder, Lewis Seen. He's an incredibly versatile safety option. He's great at triggering downhill and like attacking gaps, and you can start him up on the moon, line him up way deep in either too high or even as a single high guy, and he can still be involved in the play because he's got like 4.3 something speed and he knows how to use it. And he seems like just the greatest kid ever too. Like everybody just raves about working with him and stuff. Really excited to see what he can do, and he'll probably be a sub package guy for his first few games here, as Cam Bynum is the starting safety opposite Harrison Smith, and he's doing a really good job. He's really earning that job. So we'll probably see more sub package from Lewis Cine, but I'm super stoked on both those DBs.
I have a real quick one. Sorry, Shakes.
No,
how do you feel it's been going under the new head coaching regime there with McConnell taking over for Zimmer, who was there? I think Zimmer was one of the longer tenured head coaches when he got released. So
8 years. I think that might put him second, or third after Bud Grant and Denny Green. The vibe is really loose. That's the word I would use for it. It's very relaxed, and it's they're having a lot of fun. They're working their tails off, but it's very, like, you could feel the tension. It was very tense the last few years under Zimmer, especially, like, you could see it when Stephon Diggs was here. Stephon Diggs was tense, and he's a tense guy. Like, that's how he works. But he winds up real tight, and Kirk Cousins winds up real tight. The shoulders have dropped a little bit. They're walking around, they're dancing, they're laughing, they're having fun. And Kevin O'Connell's laughing with the players and making a point to chit chat with everybody. And Kwesi's this very kind of laid back vibe about him. It's very, very loose, and it's a very distinct thing. There's so much positivity coming out of everybody that people have talked to in camp about how, we're collaborating and we're all working together well. And it's very much a coach honeymoon. We'll see how all this stands up when they lose a few games. But for now, there's all sorts of positivity coming about the new regime and the new staff and how they are working with people and listening to their players and all that stuff. A lot of the things we heard about Mike Zimmer in the beginning of his tenure that then went away, it seems like they've got it back with a new kind of honeymoon phase.
Awesome. All right, so give me your favorite off-season move this year.
Got to be Zadarius Smith. I was pounding the table for Zadarius Smith when the Packers cut him. And they cut him for cap reasons, and he's a little older, and he was coming off a back injury. But he's a rover. That means he can play a little positionless. He can rush inside, outside, up the middle, whatever. He can even drop back into coverage. But in Green Bay, his job was all week he would watch your offensive line. He'd pick the worst guy, and he'd say, I'm going to go up against that guy all day. And if you ever played the Packers, Zadarius Smith was up against your 6th round, your right guard you were hoping you would get away with wasn't very good. He'd be up against that guy all day, and he's had many, many multiple sack games out of that strategy. And that's what he gets to come and do here. He already looks every bit his old self, assuming that back injury doesn't flare up again. I'm so stoked on that signing. I wanted him so bad coming from Green Bay, and he actually came here. They got to court him and do it. It's really exciting.
Man, y'all stay with these pass rushes and things of these natures.
Always.
I can always remember pass rushes from, even going back from John Randall.
Beast.
I know people don't want to hear this from Viking Nation, but Everson Griffin was a beast before the whole thing went down, right?
Oh, we love Everson here. He had some demons, and I think the game of football was no longer good for him, is the way I guess I would put that. But he will always be beloved here. He'll be in the Ring of Honor someday. I still love Everson Griffin to this day. He's one of my favorite ever players.
Yeah, and now y'all got Danielle Hunter and you just brought up Zadarius Smith. Yeah, y'all stay with these pass rushes, man. Y'all know how to do that.
Of course.
All right, so go ahead, Barry, if you got something.
Well, I was just going to say, I love that you brought a guy from the Packers to help slay that Green Bay Dragon. It's been, playing.
And his coaches.
Yeah.
We got Mike Pettin and Mike Smith. Those were his Packer coaches. That's why he came, because he liked those coaches. So we just we took a lot of that staff that the Packers have sort of cleared out, and we've kind of brought them in as assistants, working under Ed Donatel, working in a different kind of scheme. But they've brought also Chandon Sullivan. We've taken a lot of those old 2019, 2020 Packers defenses that were on the other side of Aaron Rodgers during all those NFC Championship runs.
No doubt. So give me a dark horse to make this 53-man roster of yours.
Oh, how dark a horse do you want? Because there are some that I guess are borderline players that seem like they've got a pretty good chance. I'll give you an Albert Wilson, if you remember him. He might make it returning punts if he can be a good punt returner. It's always hard to evaluate that in camp, so it's kind of a thing to watch in the preseason who returns punts the best, or who they have returning punts at all. Like, you only get 3 or 4 punts in a preseason game. Who gets those reps?
Right.
So he's borderline, right? Like, he could sneak on as like a 6th receiver if he really amps it up. But I'll give you the darkest, or the sleeper of sleepers, is right now Tristan Jackson. He's a 2nd-year guy. He didn't make the Denver Broncos last year, but he almost did. And he was getting reps with the second team. And that's kind of how you know they're really taking him seriously. And even some reps with the first team at the Monday night kind of family night practice. And he was playing really well. There's another undrafted 2nd-year guy named Myron Mitchell out of, I think, UAB, who's also having a good time. He got hurt, so he's kind of losing his momentum. But there's a couple of really interesting undrafted receivers that might just sneak on as like wide receiver 6.
Okay. Great answers. Giving them good nuggets here. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get to something a little bit more juicy. All right.
Yeah, give me the hard stuff.
What's the position that you're most concerned with?
Quarterback.
Probably the interior quarterback. I'm not a huge Kirk Cousins guy, but he is what he is.
But I was going to get to that.
Yeah, whatever that is, we'll get to it. Yeah, but it's probably the interior offensive line. There's been a lot of issues up there. Garrett Bradbury is in the last year of his rookie deal. They didn't pick up his fifth year option, and now there's even some speculation among media that he might not even start, that he might actually lose the job to Chris Reed. I personally see that as a little more wishful thinking because people kind of want to be done with Bradbury. And Chris Reed has not run with the ones at all yet. He's still with the second team. But it's definitely like the area of concern. It's all the rage in Eagan, Minnesota. Plus the guards. Ezra Cleveland at left guard, he's fine. And then at right guard, they've got a competition between Jesse Davis, who's been up and down, and Ed Ingram, 2nd-year rookie, who's also been up and down, and he's got some off-field that people kind of don't like to talk about him. So the interior is pretty messy right now. It has been for years, and it seems like there's going to be another one like that.
Okay.
Sound familiar?
Yeah. And me and Eda Chosen from the Bronx, one of my co-hosts from the show, we liked Ezra Cleveland coming out in that draft. So we had big expectations for him. So
he moved to guard.
And what he was a 2nd rounder?
Yeah, 2nd rounder, but he played tackle at Boise State, and they've moved him to guard. He'll stay at guard because they got Christian Darrisaw at left tackle, who's turning a lot of heads actually. But
I had him
it's
in
a
my
little
top
bit
list.
unnatural.
Top tackle.
He didn't have good. He had tackle habits at guard, late hands, stuff like that. Kind of played a little bit too long, not compact enough. All that stuff that tackles when they switch to guard tend to deal with. And I think he's getting over that. He's steadily improving every year, but he's far from like a superstar right now.
Awesome. Okay. So what is your expectations for Dalvin Cook this season?
I'm telling people to draft Dalvin Cook in their fantasy leagues. I think he's going to get a lot of more touches than you think. You know, we got a McVay guy. Everybody thinks, okay, 11 personnel. We're going to pass 80% of the time. He uses running backs in real creative ways in the pass game. This guy is not just a check down like he was with the Kubiaks. He would just run out and kind of, run to the line of scrimmage marker and just go catch a check down and see if he can't get 4 yards out of it. Gone are the days. There's going to be angle routes. There's going to be H posts, which is, kind of deeper and down the middle, stuff like that. Very creative ways of using that running back and using his skills. I like the way he runs routes. Problem is he's got a little bit of he doesn't have the most consistent hands. He's had some drops. So you got to iron that out. But I love the way he runs routes and might be able to get separation and be a real weapon in the passing game. But also he's a great zone running back. And he's always been, the worst season he's had yards per carry wise, 4.5 yards per carry. So he's a consistent producer when he's just straight up zone running back, and it's going to be awesome. He's got some good depth behind him too. People are excited about Alexander Madison. I'm not the biggest fan, but I think I'm in the minority. Kene Wangu out of Iowa State, 2nd-year guy. Dude looks like the Flash out there. He's the fastest guy on the team, I think. He looks really exciting, and they even have a rookie named Ty Chandler out of Tennessee who hasn't looked too bad. So really fun group.
Like that kid. Okay. All right, now let's get to this Kirk Cousins thing, right? Because I am not a fan at all. I call him a bum. He's just trash. He's a crook.
A
He's a
crook.
thief. He stole money, lots of it. So give me what you think of Kirk Cousins, and also what is his future in Minnesota?
So his future after this year in Minnesota becomes really interesting because he'll go into the last year of a contract now. They only extended him 1 year. So he'll be right back next offseason where he was this offseason, where you're going, are we extending him? Is he playing a contract here? He won't want to play on a contract here. He wants security and stability. So there's going to be a lot of pressure to get something done, or if he really does, if they aren't going to sign him, he might ask for a trade. He has a no trade clause, so he has all the control over that. I'm never going to call players a thief for, negotiating money out of their teams. I think everybody should be able to do that. But my Kirk Cousins take is that he's very paint by numbers. I call him Ron Burgundy. He reads what's on the teleprompter, no matter what that is, even if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah.
And that's what is both good about him, and because he is a fantastic executor of exactly what the coach told you to do. So every offensive coordinator that's worked with him adores him. He does exactly what I say. What more could you want? But without that ability to kind of break the teleprompter, work off script, actually kind of think things through objectively instead of just following an instruction. Like if you didn't put a contingency for this into the code, he's just going to error out when something unexpected happens.
Yeah,
And
there's
that's
no
when,
creativity in his game at all.
right. And he does have the talent, like physically, to do it. He can run around if he like chose to. He just doesn't choose to. He can throw on the run as well as anybody, but he doesn't choose to. And so that's why I'm not a huge fan of Kirk Cousins. I think it's very limiting. And I also think when he does identify the throw he wants to make, he has a bad habit of hesitating. And so balls will come out late, and that can lead to turnovers and bigger problems. And sometimes it leads to the window closes and actually you aren't going to throw that at all. And suddenly he's holding the ball a lot and all that. That's the very brief version of my Kirk Cousins take. All that said, keep him protected. And if you got the dynamic players that the Vikings have, he'll have you in games, and he's definitely not the guy you lose because of. He's just not the guy you win because of.
I totally agree. And I don't think you'll ever win a Super Bowl with him, but he just gets by. He'll get you to the playoffs, but that's about it. I don't see no more. All right, we can move on from Kirk Cousins though, and I want to know about Adam Thielen and his injury. How is his recovery?
He should be fully recovered from everything that hurt him in 2021. That I think it lasted the rest of the season, but not too far off of that. So he's a fully 100% guy. I think his role is going to change a little bit this year. He'll be a decent fantasy option, but I think he's going to be overdrafted a little bit, and then you're going to want to buy low on someone who's disappointed with him later in this, like week 3. He's not going to be your deep threat guy like he was 4 or 5 years ago, but he has found this superpower in the red zone. I've been comparing it, and this is going to sound like high praise, but I do mean it. He reminds me a lot of the last 3 or 4 years of Chris Carter's career, where all he did was catch touchdowns.
Yeah.
And I get a really similar vibe of this guy. His hands are flypaper. He'll catch everything. He'll be able to convert that 3rd and 8 for you, no problem. And he's going to be really reliable in that. And for that reason, you can put him on the field for as many plays as you want. And then once you get between the 20s, that dude might be the best option on the field. Next to Justin Jefferson, who's also just like super lethal everywhere. But that's going to be the role that Thielen plays. And then you're going to see more of the standard kind of do it all wide receivers asks that a McVay offense is going to ask their wide receivers to block, to run short routes, intermediate routes, long routes, everything. You're going to see that from Justin Jefferson and then KJ Osborne, who I think might end up, I think he has a chance to actually outproduce Adam Thielen this year. I wouldn't be surprised to see it.
Oh, well,
okay. All right. Now earlier we spoke about how y'all keep pass rushes, but some odd reason y'all also keep wide receivers.
Yeah.
How you go from Randy Moss to Stephon Diggs to now Justin Jefferson. Speak on Justin Jefferson, please.
Yeah. Justin Jefferson has been talking a huge game this year, and I'm going to be the last person to be skeptical of him.
Right.
He says he's going to go for 2,000, which I don't think that's ever happened.
Wow.
He says he's going to, by the end of the year, he's like, yeah, I think Devonta Adams is the best in the league right now, but by the end of the year, it'll be me. And I honestly think he's got a chance to do that. He's got all the versatility that a McVay style offense is going to want. He can block very well. He can run any route. But really, when you watch him run routes, my favorite is when he gets isolated, when he's got a one-on-one, because then it's art. It's no longer science. There is a creativity to every little move that he does. And it's a lot of subtleties. It's a lot of very tiny little leans and little head fakes and stuff. And it's not these big, lumbering jump cuts that you'll see from young receivers that are used to getting by on athleticism. It's all very subtle and calculated that, if you watch the process of a route, you can see how one little move kind of leads into the next little move. And by the end of it, he's got 6 yards of separation. That's what makes him truly special, that it is genuinely artistic. Science can no longer capture Justin Jefferson. Only art can.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of him, and I love that attitude. I think that type of attitude and that mindset will help great players be greater. I love that he has a chip on his shoulder, that he's not mentioned as the best wide receiver in the league. I think that's a good sign if you're a Vikings fan, in my opinion.
And he's pretty much consensus top 5 around everybody.
Yeah.
Most people are seeing Cooper Kupp as the top in the league because of everything he did last year, and that's fair.
Right.
But yeah, Justin Jefferson is predicting that that's going to be him by the end of this year, and it's not going to be me that tells him he's wrong.
I know that's right. Just a side question on that note. You on the hot seat. You taking him or you taking Stephon Diggs?
I'm probably taking him, but I'm going to say it's close. Stephon Diggs had a lot of creativity in his route running as well. And the thing that always really engrossed me with Diggs was his catch radius was always so much bigger than you thought it should be. I could stand eye to eye. If you met me, I stand eye to eye with Stephon Diggs and feel like I'm not being towered over by it. Like, he is not a big dude. But the way that he stretches out in his catch radius, he is an inaccuracy eraser, which makes him so perfect for Josh Allen and the Bills, who had accuracy issues, and Stephon Diggs has really helped him come forward. And it's been like the greatest thing the Bills have done in the last 4 years was trade for Diggs. But right now, it seems like Jefferson is just barely starting to overtake him. But if any Bills fans want to say that I'm wrong about that, I'm not going to even argue with you. It's super close.
Okay. All right, I got 2 more questions. But Beard, if you got a couple questions.
No, I feel like I've asked what I wanted to ask about Minnesota. I mean, I will say this, Luke. I did want to bring up the general manager's comments about Cousins and just the elephants in the room. Do you feel like that's going to hurt this season going forward, or do you think it's much ado about nothing?
It's much ado about nothing. Kwesi and Cousins have long. I mean, I think the conversation about that might have lasted 1 minute. That was a pretty easy thing to clear up. The comments I think you're referring to are the things he said, like, he's not Brady, he's not Mahomes, which I don't think Kirk Cousins would disagree with that. It's just something you're not supposed to say in the media. And Kwesi's a new general manager. He's not used to getting all the media attention. He's used to being the nerd behind the scenes, the man behind the curtain pulling levers. Now he's in the spotlight. I think he's just got to get used to talking to the media. And that's what he said. He's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that.
I appreciate him for his candor, though, because many times we just get tired of the canned answers. So sometimes I think we shouldn't vilify these guys for giving us honest answers about players, because I think he just said what everybody knew about Kirk Cousins, in my opinion.
Yeah, and he didn't say anything too damning. No. He just said, like, oh, yeah, this guy is not Patrick Mahomes, and therefore we have to build a team around a guy who Kirk Cousins is, not a team around a guy that Kirk Cousins isn't. It's like, that's actually a pretty good point, and it's clear that that's what they've tried to do. But it's, the wording gets weird, and whatever, the most accidentally inflammatory thing you say is always going to be the lead of the article. Not that it's even like a malicious article. It's just, it's easy to take that stuff and kind of run with it and blow it way out of proportion. No, he was just talking about how he approaches team building in a fairly long form and very good article at USA Today. But it was pretty much resolved in about 10 seconds, and nobody in Minnesota is thinking about it anymore.
Awesome. I'll let Shakes finish it up with the questions here, my man.
No doubt. All right. So my final two questions for you, Luke. And again, we appreciate you giving us the time. I did
Absolutely.
say 30 minutes to 45, and I stick to my word, man. All right.
Very good.
Now, that's my first to last question. All right. Can y'all win the division?
Can they? I think that there is a world where they can. I do not think they will, mostly because they are very young on defense, and the older players, it is a new defense to them. It's not that new to Zadarius Smith, but it's new stuff to Danielle Hunter and Harrison Smith. And then on the outside at cornerback, there's Patrick Peterson, who's never played in this scheme before. He's picked it up well, according to everybody, but what can you get out of him? And then rookies and Cam Dantzler. That is a huge weak spot that will prevent the Vikings defense from really being able to run the whole gambit of tools that a Fangio style defense has. If you think about the Super Bowl Broncos or the 2018 Bears that won the division or the 2020 Rams, all of those were the same scheme more or less. And they all had very good corners on the outside that help you. If you can leave those guys alone and you don't need to give them help, you can dedicate all of those resources, all those players to other stuff. And that's where all the really fun Fangio style, all the blitzes and all the cool pressure packages and all that stuff that really make Fangio defenses difficult to run against. All that stuff goes out the window when you have to spend a linebacker to help a cornerback, with an inside break because he can't follow the break, or when you have to spend a safety to help him over the top. You're going to have to see a lot of that. So I think the defense is going to struggle off the bat as these guys learn things. Now, it will become, I think, very good when all these players are sort of back on the same page and they're not still in a learning mode and stuff. But first-time head coach, first-time coordinator, first time in all the schemes and stuff, it's going to be a rocky start, and I think that will be the kind of thing that keeps them on the playoff bubble. And you can always pencil Aaron Rodgers in for 13 wins.
Yeah,
so you have to be better than that to win the North.
I was gonna say, Luke, as long as Aaron Rodgers is in that division, man,
it's his until it's not. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to say. And then I think people I think they underestimate how great that guy is because he hasn't had a ton of playoff success now. I mean, I often joke with Nacho in the box that Eli Manning has a more recent Super Bowl than Aaron Rodgers, and Eli's retired. He'll be up for the Hall of Fame next year if he makes it. Shakes has one more question for you. He's popping back in here. I'm going to let him finish his last question, and we'll finish up the interview here with you, my man. Appreciate your time again.
Definitely. Awesome, man. Awesome interview. We appreciate it, man. Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you once again. All right. So, everything was about the Vikings here, and that's what you do. So I definitely wanted to give the Shakedown fans and the Shakedown crowd and whoever was latching on to us, I wanted to give them some great Vikings material here and content here that you gave us today, even though we just had a NFC North round table that was fire. Please go back and look at and watch that for the people that's watching that right now. But this is my last question, just from your standpoint. Who is your favorite to win the Super Bowl this year?
Favorite to win the Super Bowl this year? It's always hard to count out the Brady's or the Rodgerses. Hard to count out the Chiefs, the ones that are always in there. I'm kind of thinking out loud. I haven't really thought about this a lot yet this offseason.
Yeah. I'm getting in that mode too.
Yeah. I guess the trendy one to say would be the Bills. It feels like they're building a sort of a supernova, and I don't exactly know what gets in their way outside of they just got to get in the playoffs and conquer Patrick Mahomes, and that's just the only thing they haven't been able to do. But I mean, man, it's hard to beat a team in the playoffs 3 years in a row, and eventually that matchup comes, right? Unless the Chiefs, fall apart and lose to someone else or something crazy happens. Like it's gonna be. That's the way, It's the
that AFC West is going to be a meat grinder. So I'm not counting the Chiefs as the win in that division this year, honestly.
I don't think you can put it in ink or anything. They're favored, but Chargers, Broncos, they're all really interesting.
Raiders too.
but-
Raiders too.
I don't know. This feels like it could be the year for the Bills. It feels like they've got all the pieces. I've been a big Bills fan. I love Stephon Diggs with my whole heart. So as soon as he went there, I kind of became a low-key Bills fan. And we've got the 0-4 in Super Bowls thing, a little camaraderie.
Right. The Vikings and the Bills fans have that shared trauma.
Yeah, we had it with the Broncos for a hot minute, but then Elway won.
And Manning.
So sure. I'll go with the Bills, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it just be a boring team that we've seen in contention kind of every year for the last few.
Well, cool. Awesome. Thanks again, Luke. Tell us one more time where they can find your stuff. Lockdown Vikings. We have your Twitter stuff scrolling, but just reiterate the Patreon stuff and your documentary.
So if you're interested in some history, some old nostalgia, there are definitely some interesting little Giants nuggets in the documentary about the Fran Tarkenton years. You can find that at patreon.com/Luke Braun NFL. First couple episodes are out, one every Saturday up until the end of the season. There's also the podcast Locked On Vikings. Search it out on wherever you listen to podcasts. It's on everything, including YouTube. And you can also find the Minnesota Football Party if you want that, as well as Locked On NFL, which is an NFL-wide show that I do with my good buddy Ross Jackson. I'm on that every Tuesday, but it's a daily show with a rotating cast of co-hosts. We got the Tuesday slot. So you can find that also wherever you find favorites.
Luke Braun, Locked On Vikings. Thank you once again. I appreciate it, and we definitely got to bring you back sometime soon. And anything that you need from me is just a DM away, man. Just give me a holler.
You got it, buddy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, that's it.
Reppin' for the Giants on that drive for 5. See us connecting all the dots, weaving through the lines. Dog, don't you see the signs? You can't mix zebra with the lines. Where I was working kinda hard before I seen a dime. Now it's all about them big plays and conversational tirades. Don't y'all motherfuckers know? It's the Shakedown Show. It's the Shakedown Show. Shakedown Show. It's the Shakedown Show. Ooh, yeah. It's the Shakedown Show.